It's okay. Yeah. A little louder.
Speech has been dropped.
Yeah.
What? Oh yeah, okay. Just in case.
Everyone good? Yeah. Are all judges good?
Yep.
Please start. He's just getting on the speech drop real quick.
You're good, you're good. Just start.
Yeah. Okay. I was talking about first group. C1 is time travel. Affirming this, let's say time travel to Mars. All 3-6. Mars can only good by to understand his for production of a particular arsenal to its allies' background set. That's because French current strategy is against the turn after 25. France has no intention of sharing nuclear weapons as long as the U.S. is taking the EU agreements. French have an ambiguity. It's easy. JP23. Equation makes travel probable units in tools to end space and time will continue on with low temperature and the growing and loop of the frame. Universe destruction, verse 16. Time travel would destroy the universe. Whole galaxies will exist in reference that happen before events are so going in loops, increasing the mass of the universe until it collapses. C2 is trust. EU with the global to reach the 2 degrees Celsius mark by leveraging partnership. Diplomacy is key. That's now 25. EU will turn to America, the EU to forge international partnership to travel beyond the EU global at 2 degrees Celsius. EU can yield global to Switzerland on trust. China's cooperation is uniquely key. We're at a tipping point now, 416. Time turns to the pivotal juncture. EU and China running increasingly common ground. EU, China, dialogue platform. EU, China memorandum of understanding. Crucial work on neutral economy. Ab flips the script. China sees that the threat here 525. And nuclear sharing will be irritating in both the revisions acted like China. Nuclear great power fostering of trust climate cooperation. England 25. The international community is keeping a 1.5 carbon budget. 16 degrees supply chain restraints. Nuclear turns practically lost in degree of cooperation. Independently when tensions rise, China resources restricting rare earth, destroying AF weapons and green tech moves 7-1. Rare earth technology becomes China's single powerful tool in negotiation. China dominates rare earth, 100,000 rare earth and performance defense technology. After reaching 2 degree mark, is now states extinction. Here's 23. For every degree of warming beyond 2 degrees Celsius, the additional billion will be caused in human extinction. C3 is WHO, empirically defense spending trades off with WHO funding and it's at an existential brink. We're at 24. EU putting more funding towards defense last towards an existential crisis multilateral can succeed in addressing global health. AF pushes us over the brink. Grammar 35. Moving to Europeanization of nuclear force means additional stocks 1,000 thermonuclear warheads, 10 billion euro per year, not including indirect costs. World Health Organization is crucial for preventing schedule to 121. WHO played a pivotal role in global health directly provided medication or support during pandemics. Pandemic coming in 3 years, Murder 21. A 7-year boundaries emerging another outbreak arriving in early 2028. Absent WHO extinction, pandemics are getting more deadly. Came out 21. Certain disease can affect almost the human networks are indicated that disease can lead to human extinction. The risk increases with the mobility of humankind. C4 is Iran. EU's capping escalation. Iran progressing time though. Camry 721. Iran held nuclear talks with the EU nations on the country's nuclear program on Friday. The EU continued to work on a diplomatic solution to Iran. The EU is the best negotiator. Their common understanding. First out 25. The EU is fostering peace between former enemies, gunner and mutual recognition, not nominating special relevance at the EU External Action Service, EU Commission. After diplomacy, forcing Iran's hand. Group 24. The EU nuclear has become difficult to totally defend the goal of disarming the nuclear sharing agreement. Development years ended by non-allied countries. The EU successfully handled the Iranian crisis on instruments. After diplomacy, Iran proliferates. Ready already. ACA 25. The Iranian nuclear crisis is reaching a different one. To take advantage of the diplomacy was escalating. Iran thought to withdraw from the NPT and develop nuke. Iran more than able to. 0624. Iran's developed retrenched uranium was moving 4 strikes to drill little of nuclear materials. Centrifuges are intact. Iran's a highly fortified underground uranium facility and production center. Israeli strikes caused drawn in extinction. April 13. Israeli attack on Iran by escalating the global war. Pakistan on the south of Iran introducing nuclear weapons. Russia and China are drawn in such oil. Nuclear weapons will be used radar after contamination. Damage global agriculture, famine, destroy biosphere. C4-5 is escalation. Russia's taking a step back. Syria 627. Russia got $1.172 billion in defense, including the war in Ukraine. Cutting expenditures is obvious. Russian economy is falling apart. Russia views nuclear sharing as existential and lashes out. DS25. Comes off the diplomatic control war given that Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are located uncomfortably close to the Russia's most important region is posed an existential threat. Moreover, AFROM Trump abandoning it. Samuel 525. And France nuclear sharing agreement will only irritate Washington. Clear. Given that Trump has no comments on abandoning allies. Russia's own perception sees Russia's turn as ineffective. It's perceptual. Russia lashes out. Spec 118. If France were to promise the EU to spend no means constitute a deterrent, encouraging the other side to actually feel deterred, now that France can come close to this impact, an attempt by France to create a nuclear umbrella would immediately lead to a nuclear crisis. Retaliation isn't Russia's doctrine. Samuel 525. Asymmetry is doctrinal. Moscow's escalated to de-escalate strategy. Deterrence cannot counter. France lies force multipliers. Global surveillance network, intelligence capabilities. Even small nuclear wars guarantee extinction. 18. Less than 1% of nukes explode. Tons of debris. Lower Earth's temperature destroy the ozone layer and agriculture and end civilization. As with a robust first strike from Russia.
Yeah. Order is our case, their case.
Okay, it's in there.
What do you want to speak to? I'm opening it up.
Okay, are all the judges good? One second. Okay, everyone's good? Okay. We affirm Singapore Taiwan Trump administration respects lack of commitment signals that China can win by force. President 25. Trump refused to give Singapore an answer when asked if the U.S. will allow China to take Taiwan by force. Lack of specific commitments leading to transactional approach. China maybe would take Taiwan without interference. Absent aggression manifests through coercion rather than invasion incentives. Trend 24. China's successful forms of economic coercion but pressure on Taiwan without being directly confrontational. China finding excuses that camouflage and enforcing laws. Western sanctions will be difficult to organize and sustain. Nuclear sharing perceptually and materially signals independence, which allows the U.S. to skip lengthy modernization, alleviate multi-theater overstretch, and fear military for Taiwan. Triple 25. U.S. current posture is growing under strain. European nuclear domain alleviate U.S. pressure relevant, increasing military presence in the crisis over Taiwan. Nuclear forces in France enhance coordination, signaling that Europe is prepared to shoulder responsibility. Signals U.S. commitment to Taiwan. Wing 21. Vision provocations intimidate and create doubts about U.S. commitment to isolate Taiwan. U.S. should demonstrate commitment and deepen bilateral relationship to convince Beijing that coercion will backfire. That discourages coercion, preventing direct escalation comes first for China. It's in 25. Muslim America is escalating that pushes the relationship over Beijing is not what that overriding goals for the U.S. to stand up to accuse power and influence. Otherwise, blockade escalates with incentives for retaliate. Alpha Board 24. Blockade escalating to full-scale engagement, U.S. Japanese support or blockade or impose further costs backed by military force. Conflict goes nuclear threats, communication, inviting miscalculation simultaneously creates user pressure for China. Round 21. Chinese conventional and nuclear forces rely on the same infrastructure attacks against conflict cut off nuclear forces as well as nuclear degraded authorities conclude they no longer have survival to deter in China. This user practice is exacerbated by a fog of war. C2 is the Arctic. U.S. nuclear umbrella is winning right now. Europe requires an independent strategy. Golf 624. Trump administration cast down a commitment to defend U.S. nuclear umbrella. No longer seems dependable. Company needs to rethink deterrent strat. Specifically, deprioritization of the root cause of the Arctic commitment is insufficient regardless of capabilities. Bill 24. U.S. initiatives are unlucky in the Arctic due to Arctic being low priority. Defense prioritization means Arctic will continue to act despite growing risk. Thus, offensive posturing is skyrocketing right now. Military operations, covert nuclear programs, and tactical brazen operations aim to probe NATO's thresholds and apply pressure. Coleman 527. Russia seeks to enhance civil power in the region. Military operations have been sharply increased, building submarines with ballistic missiles, infrastructure, satellite jam, and drone flights, program activity, operations, testing of the threshold. Nuclear sharing stalls forward deployment to frontline states provide reliable deterrent and de-escalation mechanism. Hoffman 25. France's warheads are primarily submarine launched ICBMs. France could forward deploy nukes to the European country. Nuclear sharing would be effective in frontline states, signaling that further aggression provoke nuclear response. Sufficient capabilities exist now, but positioning and key sharing are key to use them for deterrence. Hoff 25. France has sufficient weapons to cause unacceptable damage to Moscow carried by controlling cut submarines likely to survive first strike levels considered credible deterrence. France won't spend much. Other countries take the burden. Rizom 25. Macron suggests to France shares deterrence under conditions France will pay for the security of others. Unchecked Russian adventurism invites multiple vectors for nuclear war. Various Grayson incursions and lack of red line clarity miscalculate into escalatory conflict. 125. Grayson Russian attack border skirmishes, cyber attacks, airspace incursion, and intercepts could lead to open conflict that escalates to nuclear war. Not clear where the red line would be for Article 5. I forgot to read. Actually, no, they were nukes cause extinction, right? Okay, cross supply there weren't nukes cause extinction. Their case. One of their escalation scenarios has been thumped in 3 different ways. It's firmly non-unique. A, the possibility of NATO sharing putting nukes in the Baltic means that the perceptual link should have triggered as it's already on their doorstep. B, the F-35s their evidence talks about have already been deployed, which thumps their argument. And C, the spec evidence concedes that Northwood agreement thumps because it just says that the slight perception that France and UK are protecting EU means Russian attacks, but they've already made that promise. 2, I'll skip the implications of that. 2, Trump has already broken NATO. He threatened to withdraw in his perception what proves Russian aggression now, and the argument is non-unique. 3, it proves Russia is revisionist. Ukraine, Crimea, and Georgia are all instances of Russia aggressing without being provoked, which wins us the offensive-defensive debate. Prefer they're saying fear-mongering is a blogger, whereas our, we say actual examples. 4, political pressure results in invasion. Only sufficient diversion is fully invading, which proves our uniqueness. 5, turn it, Frank. Trump is pulling out right now, improves questioning him, which means EU nuclear sharing is key to fill. Prefer their spec evidence does not do incentive analysis or improves perspective, whereas our analysis does. 6, Baltics being NATO members thumps Russia should have already invaded. Military sharing is existential to the Kremlin. Terminally disproves NATO immersion and means there's just zero risk of Russian retaliation. 7, the DS evidence is wrong. It's just Russia trying to scare NATO into not doing the app because it knows it hurts their interests. Concedes our link is true. 8, Russia is in a war now, so they're not in a position to escalate against another country. That's why current escalation in Ukraine specifically stalls, which is our scenario. 9, current nukes are sufficient, subs of survival, and can't be detected, which means even perception right now is sufficient to solve. And 10, their specs evidence concedes deterrence, which says it would require a declared intention to deter in order to work, which is including in fiat because of it saying independent nuclear deterrent.
Cool. Ready for cross?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about a couple of the 10 responses that you gave on escalation. So you tell us that, like, 1, Trump has already, did you mind if we said by the way?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay, cool. Trump has already, like, broken, you say that Trump has already broken NATO. Which evidence points to the fact that he's, quote unquote, broken NATO?
it's an analytic that Trump is forcing NATO to increase their defense spending, which is reducing NATO cohesion because some NATO countries are controlled by people who like Trump, some aren't. It's causing disagreement among NATO members about whether they should apply to 5%.
But insofar as you've given us like zero evidence, insofar as you've proven that it's an analytic, insofar if our evidence proves that Trump and NATO cohesion is up right now, wouldn't we beat out this argument?
It's a meta-analytic because we're talking about how your evidence cites NATO as a complete actor, but our analysis takes a step further and says that's not true because NATO is made up of multiple countries that disagree, which is our argument. Can I have a question?
You may.
Okay. On time travel, have we seen time travel before?
We would argue we'd see it when you affirm. Can I take a question?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about your whole like political pressures resulting in an invasion, right? Could you expand on this, please? Like, what does it mean?
Sorry, say that again?
Yeah, your whole like political pressures result in an invasion.
It's because like our argument is that Putin is controlled by war hawks in the Russian government who right now are trying to get him to invade in the status quo, which supercharges our uniqueness. Can I have a question?
Yeah, you may.
Okay. Past nuclear sharing agreements in Europe, did they trigger any of your arguments?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, the only past nuclear sharing, like the NATO agreement, happened in the 1950s, which is very different from our current political landscape, in which Putin's actually in charge.
Okay, so we agreed there were past nuclear sharing agreements and there was no time travel, right?
Huh?
There were past nuclear sharing
Yeah,
agreements.
that's a completely different argument. The past nuclear sharing agreements, NATO was open to doing it. Our whole argument on time travel was that France isn't open to doing this, so the only way to affirm is to travel back in time. Can I take a question?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about your Taiwan scenario real quick. So do you have literally any evidence, not from the Taiwanese military, saying that China's gonna invade right now?
Yes.
Where?
You want me to like find it right now?
Yeah.
Guzman is a reporter for the Time magazine in Singapore who finds that because Trump is forwarding a stance where he won't say whether China's going to invade, and he's giving perception that he's deprioritizing Taiwan, China has an opportunity to invade right now.
Hasn't he been deprioritizing Taiwan for
Trend
6
is a senior
months?
fellow with the Atlantic Council who finds that the most likely implementation of Chinese aggression is blockade. Neither of those are from the Taiwanese military.
Okay,
Can I have a
cool.
question?
Can I get a follow-up though?
If it's quick, yeah.
Just real quick, yeah. Hasn't Trump been in office for 6 months and we haven't seen any of your impact?
We have, which is our argument. We've seen, like, I forget the number. I think we've seen like a 30-something fold increase in Chinese economic coercion. Can I have a question?
Okay.
Okay.
But it's actually like basically
Oh, is it?
across. Yeah, it's 3. Okay. We take some running starting. That was a minute 26.
Since in the dock. Our frontline case And then go this side at the top, overview, and then straight down your face. Yeah, yeah.
Is that on a contention or is it just separate?
It's just like overall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Same overview.
Yeah.
Wait, overview and disaggregate. Okay.
What is going on?
Oh, I'm dropping the doc right now.
Okay.
I got it.
No, send a doc apps.
Oh, docx, not PDF. Okay, got it.
Good.
And then we'll start frontlining. Everyone good? Awesome. I'm gonna start my chart. First, they try to tell you that our escalation scenario has been Trump, but though they can see the NATO nuclear sharing isn't unique to the situation right now. And uniquely, what our evidence identifies is nukes F-35s in the Baltics. What would trigger our scenario? They don't give you any evidence saying NATO nuclear sharing specifically put nukes in the Baltics, and not all the Baltic countries are in NATO specific. Also, like the Northwood Agreement definitely doesn't stop because our evidence specifically cites things like the Baltics, not necessarily just France and England specifically. Secondly, they try to tell you Trump has broken NATO. No, our most recent evidence finds that no, Trump hasn't broken NATO. They're still in, but post-AF, that's not going to happen. Next, they try to tell you that, oh, empirics prove that Russia is revisionist. Sure, but insofar as our evidence tells you it's existential, therefore it's a nuclear war, even if these smaller scale invasions happen, it doesn't necessarily matter. Next, they try to tell you political pressures result in an invasion. That doesn't necessarily make sense. Our argument is that, again, it's a nuclear conflict that happens post-AF, not necessarily just an invasion. Next, they try to tell you turn it that Trump is pulling out right now. There's no evidence. Also, our evidence finds that Trump is still in. Next, they try to tell you Baltic being NATO members, again, I've told you that not all of the Baltic members are specifically in NATO specifically, and there's no warrant or evidence as to why they're getting the nukes right now. Also, more definitely thumbs the link. They say our DS evidence is wrong, it's just Russia trying to scare NATO. No, our evidence finds that a Kremlin top official said it would be existential because it's the encroachment on their territory. They have conceded the warranting. Also, they try to tell you Russia is in war right now, that doesn't matter as far as existential, definitely upwards that. They try to tell you that current nukes are sufficient and subs are survivable, but insofar as it's, again, an existential risk, Russia would be willing to actually kill these subs in the first place, doesn't care about these subs. They try to tell you that RSpec evidence concedes deterrent, it requires a declared intention of deterrent to work, but insofar as, again, it's existential, it probably uplayers all of the deterrence responses. Yeah, go to their case. Okay, first this half. French cyber is great, so who's 7-9? France has become a leader in cybersecurity as more and more creative firms provide infrastructure and information against any cyber attack. Bigger systems increase. Purpose 23. As nuclear weapon systems become more advanced, they increasingly become more vulnerable to cyber attacks, allows Russia to collapse capabilities. ICBS 23. Russian cyber attacks to be employed to trigger nuclear event attacks, placing current information to take control of nukes. Next, honor, understand all of their arguments rely on deterrence working in the first place. A, on the tyrant argument. Insofar as deterrence doesn't work, they don't trust the US and US is forced to go back to insofar as deterrence in the Arctic specifically doesn't work, then Russia won't be deterred. First though, turn it. Russia proceeds the land of supporting Ukraine. Corporate 25. Macron talks about nuclear deterrent. Moscow dismisses extremely confrontation with Ukraine compensate. France continues the war. Macron's coming with a threat against Russia. Therefore, Russia escalates. AB 24. Putin is ready to use nukes. He wants the West deepening involvement in Ukraine will risk a nuclear war. Putin is ready to use all means to protect his gains in Ukraine. In line with the country's security doctrine, Moscow is ready to use it. Second, Russia perceives the French nuclear stockpile as non-deterrent. Constitution 5. France has 300 nuclear wars. Russia has over 1,500. Russia's missile defenses eliminates a large portion of France's attacks. France cannot hope to avert complete destruction. Third, Russia doesn't believe that France would retaliate. Cooking deterrence are met. Logger 25. Is it conceivable that a state will risk its total destruction to defend another state? The French said no. France will sacrifice Paris for also. No good answer exists for France to run such a risk. Skip the next card. 4. Jurisdictional challenges emerge post-AF. Dumping NATO and French deterrence. Bushel 25. France offering nuclear security guarantees to EU members. There are also NATO members to complexity. They are beyond resolve. Undermines broader strategic objective, command and control difficulties, and discrepancy in threat assessment between EU and NATO, fragmenting existing deterrence agreements. Cut the rest of the overview. Go to Taiwan. First, Non-unique. Trump is isolationist. He probably won't defend Taiwan in either world. Secondly, there's no warrant as to why it's different now. They tell you that the military is overstressed, but the evidence doesn't say it's by Taiwanese military, who obviously would say that China would attack to get more funding. Third, also, if China really wants to invade Taiwan to be revisionist like they tell you, they would attack right now. Or double bind, they would definitely never attack. Four, there's also no warrant as to why military aid goes to Taiwan specifically, not other theaters of war.
Go to Arctic. Go to
Okay.
Arctic.
On Arctic. First, non-unique. If France is asserting presence in the Arctic, Navy 25. France is asserting presence through deployment beyond the 25 task group, versus the Navy's ability to operate in extreme environments. France demonstrates its ability to operate across all maritime theaters with drops of hostile autonomous capability. Next, no link. U.S. is sanctioning Russian oil business in the Arctic. Round 25. Versus Arctic oil business facing major disruptions for U.S. sanctions, straining food supplies. The vessels and infrastructure enabled by Russian Arctic oil business are easy.
I don't mark the off.
Yeah, I got you.
Is it fine if you just delete all the stuff that was not red?
Yeah, I got you.
Unless it was the middle of a card, then can you make it red?
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you. Let me know when you send it.
Yeah.
Did it. Okay, prep starting now.
Let me up what?
Sorry guys. Okay,
Alright,
prep starting now.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, it was.
Now,
Yeah, sorry.
Go marked off.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, you're good.
I just cut out all the cards I didn't read.
You do that for analytics as well.
Yeah, I got you.
What's going on?
They didn't mark the analytics in the doc. So I just want them to,
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
asking if they could mark the analytics that they didn't read.
Eventually, all this has to go on someone's desk.
We can do a little prep. No?
It's a.
Appreciate you.
Taking 35 seconds so far. We're gonna resume prep starting now. Okay, that was 50 more seconds. So you'll be good? You need more? Actually, I'm gonna take 2 more seconds. Alright, that's 2 more seconds. This is your phone, by the way?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'll send it off. Order, our case, escalation on their case, and then down their case top down. Good? Yep. Let me know when all the judges, our case, then like, with this add an overview, then there'll be escalation on their case and then the rest of their case. I'll sign this. You good? Perfect. They say Trump is isolation, so he won't protect Taiwan, but they can see the fact that Trump obviously cares about economic incentives in Taiwan, which is why he's going to. They don't have an actual word for isolation, it means he's not going to protect. He obviously cares about the economy. Then they say, why is it different now? Because they can see the fact that taxes are going up right now. Then on their third response, they have can see the fact that these attacks are happening right now, and if China wants to be revisionist, they are attacking and they are building up economic coercion right now. Yeah, and they say there's no war, why it goes to other theaters, that's why it goes to Taiwan and not other theaters. They can see that China is doing it in Taiwan, which is unique, this thing that goes up. On C2. They just say that France is in the Arctic right now, but they can see that nuclear weapons are specifically needed to deter Russia because they make it see it as a real threat. Then on their second response, they just say that there's oil sanctions. That does not matter, it's not implicated to our link whatsoever. Yeah. Then go to the cyber DA. On the cyber DA, one, non-unique cyber French cyber deterrence at the bring data needing to work. Cooper 25. France is in Israel's cyber most targeted putting sensitive data infrastructure at risk. The app is able to upgrade cyber, but it is 16. Exclude deterrence applies to cyber vulnerabilities help with establishment capabilities. That three, turn it to nuclear deterrence. D, deters the risk of escalation because it would be responded with unacceptable damage. Then on time, then on escalation. I'll handle the escalation debate here. One, they can see the fact that Russia's revisionist, which means our unique disclaim is true. All they say is existential. There's zero warranty as to why it's existential. They can see the fact it's revisionist, meaning that there's try or die for the app because they're being offensive right now. Yeah. Go to time travel. On time travel 1, time travel 1 collapse university, skill 18. The university didn't after travel, traveling back to the university, but you went back. Everything like that occurs gets weird. And second, the point of the resolution is to analyze what their policy, benefits are of a policy to see if it's conclusive to the rule or its best policy, the rules are not go back in time. Then go to trust. Their link evidence for Chinese retaliation is horribly miscut. China doesn't feel threatened and becomes emboldened. Samuel 525. A nuclear sharing agreement would deepen fragmentation and revisionist actors like China. A, it's so funny that China has already built relations with the EU right now, so they won't attack B, or China would be emboldened when they see the EU weakness, no matter what they feel threatened, means they aren't legitimately cooperating in the first place. Second, China can't cut off the affirmative. France's nukes are notorious for being independent. The empirics, disproves, and China is cut off before they're definitely reserves in Europe. 3, Trump is deciding on imposing tariffs on China and China retaliated by restricting RAM access because it would physically unstrategic for China to have RAM surplus. They would not limit RAM access to use back 80. The same evidence does not have warrants as to why China would restrict RAMs or investment in green energy, specifically because of the NSD. But RAM spike climate change. Near 21. Chemical version is common in like leaching pods, leaking underground water, drilling holes, leaching creates a leaching pod, toxic waste with high environmental and hydrogen, cosmetic scar on WHO. 1, the U.S. is pulling out the War 24, we can see that the U.S. Customs made massive pulls for other countries. And we read yellow. War 24, grappling with a response to U.S. cuts countries, use U.S. cuts and reduce aid. Second, no disease impact. Or 20, global pandemic short of fall short of unlike pathogens, unlikely to extinction, civilization recover, not enough clouds, make it through events, even if they were global fossil. The record of risk, 0.1% is incompatible with humanity's class. Skip the rest.
It's the overview.
Alright, go to the overview. Go to the overview. On France cannot deter. Group all of them. 1, not in numbers game empirics. Mayor 25. Proximity of European geographically big. The B-61 bombers are deployed only for political reasons. Deterrence is not in numbers game. No one questions no because assured ability political skills. Second, Russia only engaged in war because they were 100% when they don't have the capacity for a long war in Ukraine. 3, the U.S. pulled out and it will try or die. Some umbrella is better than nothing. On the Frank doctrine being escalatory. 1, they are wrong for us on empirics. As for 25, say it's a bomb. France's law doctrine logic district conceived of defense and it on it takes too long to build takes out. The next perceptual glimpse of the arguments depend on France. Nuclear action we share with other countries that gives a perception right now. Oh, on the jurisdiction argument is incoherent. France is part of NATO with the Europe means that the cohesion can be facilitated to such a period. Go to Iran. Problem is go to Iran, Israel and US, Europe, show allies intelligent pressures the US. 15. Israel and Arab states agreeing on the military plus diplomats working in Congress, officials Israel and America's go allies and allies working in Congress. And if he's wrong, it balances Israel. Well, 12. Nuclear Iran would be best to restore stability. Other members will live with Israel's nuclear monopoly and instability. Israel's Iranian policy is not made by those who want to survive. Iran desires nuclear weapons for its own security. I'll survive. Can you open the market?
Nah.
Okay. I think that's good. Teddy, can you just double check and I'll send it?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, send it in. Dr. Sen.
Okay.
Are we good for cross?
Yeah, sure. You want to stand? Yeah, sure. Okay. Do you mind if I grab the first question? What did you say the jurisdictional argument?
It was that the jurisdiction argument is incoherent. France is part of NATO and Europe, which means that cohesion can be facilitated.
Okay, but that's not our argument. Our argument is specifically like EU nuclear sharing with NATO nuclear sharing has conflict, which mediates which conflict, which you have not responded to.
Which mediates what?
Which sphere mediates which conflict within Europe.
So what is that issue? What's the issue with it?
So for example, the conflict going on with Turkey right now, which actual sphere is responsible for that? Versus which sphere is responsible for Ukraine? Or which sphere is responsible if another battle assumes in Spain?
Okay, so what's the impact of this jurisdiction?
They debate on end without these deterrents actually working. That's what the card says, it fragments existing deterrents.
Okay, but A, that's not our argument for Ukraine. B, the Arctic is somewhere where NATO is not doing anything, which is the conceit uniqueness, which is the Arctic, which you disagree over it. So it's not specific to either one of our arguments, which means it does not matter.
Okay, let's talk about Arctic.
You can make a new implication in summary, but Teddy then gets to respond to that same implication.
Okay, you can take a question.
Perfect. So you've conceded that Russia is a revisionist actor and are being offensive right now, right?
No, I responded to that in speech.
What'd
And
you say?
I said that insofar as even if these are conventional invasions, our argument is that when you move nukes close to the Baltic specifically, it's the existential risk, which is why it's lashed out. It's the only piece of defense you have on escalation, and I frontline that in my speech. Granted, it's not a great frontline, I will admit that, but it's 100% conceded.
Wait, what you said, hold up. You said, sure, they're revisionist, but it's existential. Those are your exact words in frontline.
When we move nukes to the Baltics, that was existential. That's what I said.
Yeah, you said sure, even if they're revisionist,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because the past conflicts were conventional. Like Ukraine, you said empirics, like Ukraine,
Where
and
Russia is always offensive.
yes, but our argument is those are conventional. Okay, I'll take the question. Why does time travel not collapse the universe?
Even then, you say if you ask the question now, I can read you the specific part of the simulation part. The universe you inhibit after traveling back in time is the same universe you inhibit before you go back to. Everything that occurs gets rebirthed, which means it doesn't collapse the universe.
Okay, you can take the question.
Sure. What's your day?
That's pretty good. How's your day so far?
A
A little hot. It's what I'm saying. It's a little hot today. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's crossing out. Okay.
We'll take some running prep starting now. That was 140.
We have 3 seconds left. Oh wait, we took that with so we're done. Yeah.
Okay. So order of my speech, I'm basically just going to be going our case, weighing their case. I'm going to talk about the cyber turn. I'll talk about the cyber turn and then just go ahead. Okay. Everyone good?
Starting on cyber, right?
Yeah, starting on cyber. Can I get the how can I get mine?
Yeah.
Are you starting on your case or cyber?
Starting on my case, which has on my flow cyber is like
I think most people
so
put
it's
cyber.
no, yeah, cyber first. So cyber first, head over to my case. Time to begin on my first word. On the cyber turn, they tell you that the nuclear sharing can actually improve cyber agreements, but that was NATO's nuclear sharing with the way the US is good, but their own evidence tells you that French cyber security is actually not good in the first place, so you wouldn't actually see the cyber increasing. Head over to escalation. What we tell you is right now, Russia is not attacking NATO, is not, and all their evidence funded by biased lobbyists who want more funding, but affirming close to the Northern calculus through 3 links. 1, by removing nukes to the Baltics, Russia sees it as an existential threat and therefore lashes out. 2, deterrence failed due to Russian calculus because France sees it we could do a lack of force multipliers like global communication and surveillance that were therefore Russian effect. And 3, Russian new nuclear doctrine proves different to escalation, meaning that Russia escalate the fact that mass in the face of escalation. Even a small nuclear strike destroys the ozone layer of the radiation, preventing farming causes the extinction. At the end of the day, they give you one response here telling you that Russia's revisionist, and Russia's revision, however, 1, they concede our uniqueness telling you that Russia's pulling out of Ukraine right now, proving that they're not unionist in the status quo, so they have in the past it doesn't count. But then, they also concede our link uniquely telling you that after you affirm 1, the US pulls out, and 2, they don't view the French deterrent as actually deterring because they lack the global force multipliers. Insofar as they are offensive realists, if they see that the new deterrent is weaker than they were in the front, they would attack even then. But 3rd, they also concede kind analysis telling you that they are only offensive when talking about conventional warfare. However, they're more defensive when talking about nuclear things. Although their conflict that they name is only conventional warfare. At the end of the day, on the weighing, 1, they conceded our Spec 24 analysis telling you that Russia will attack immediately insofar as you affirm the resolution. The second that you view, Russia will immediately attack because they view it as an existential risk that probably uplayers all the deterrence arguments. If you're still weighing deterrence versus escalation, break the clash right here. If it's an existential threat to Russia that develops deterrence in Russian calculus, that means if they don't attack, they have a 100% chance of getting destroyed, whereas if they attack, they have at least a 1% chance of surviving. Thus, all of the deterrence fails. Also, insofar as our time frame happens first, because our scenario is immediate on both of their scenarios. 1, it still takes years for the blockade to actually turn nuclear, and 2, on the Arctic, Russia still doesn't attack. They have no actual delineated time frame when Russia's going to attack. And also short circuit their arguments because insofar as ours scenario happens first, none of their links trigger. Head over to their case. It's really bad for them because 1, they conceded the two turns on turns telling you that 1, Russia sees the planet half as supporting Ukraine. So insofar that supercharged our link more because they view Ukraine as existential. That means that because they view Ukrainian war as existential, that means that they're just going to it's going to worsen their world. But 2nd, they concede Kai's jurisdictional challenge analysis telling you that the second that the EU affirm that means the EU and NATO will have different jurisdictions on which conflict they actually each cover, like in which one would actually go to each conflict, rendering both deterrents actually faulty. And so far as they have no deterrent, then both their connections are faulty because 1, if there's no deterrent, that means that the US is going to have to stay in the EU to protect them. So it cuts out of Taiwan, and 2, on the Arctic, if the French deterrent isn't actually deterring, then Russia's going to attack anyways. Even then, head over to Taiwan. 1, remember they give you no actual warrant as to why China's going to attack right now. They've had a 6-month window in which Trump has been the president. They tell you that the attacks are up right now, but they have no actual evidence for that. And 2nd, remember there's no actual blockade. Head over to Arctic. Remember, Also, they concede that they also concede on Taiwan that the U.S. can just go to other places. They're not any degrees on Taiwan. They can go to like SoCo and other places. And on the Arctic, just again, the French deterrent's already there. No reason why nuclear is actually better.
Okay. Prep starting now. Yeah. Okay, that's our prep.
I think it's all of
Okay, it's gonna go weighing, our case, their case. So again, weighing, app, N. Everyone good?
One second.
Yeah.
Wait, waiting on him?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm good. Okay. The most important piece of weighing is the uniqueness debate. Dave conceded that Russia is revisionist right now, which would frame your understanding of every argument in the round. Insofar as Russia is revisionist right now, it doesn't matter if they can deter conflict because Russia will just start new conflicts anyway. If we win the incentive analysis that per the empirics of Ukraine and Crimea that Russia has always historically aggressed without provocation, then we win the debate because it proves deterrence is necessary and terminally non-uniques all their scenarios. Their front line is irrelevant because they say it's existential to Russia, but it's different now. But our argument is about gray zones. We're going to go for the Arctic scenario, which means that we're not saying that they're going to invade right now, but that they do gray zones that inevitably miscalculate, which means that we still get access to the uniqueness debate. This makes all of their arguments non-unique. Just the round is over right here. Next, we're going to go for the way that Arctic is a geopolitical hotspot right now, which means there's a faster draw because Russia's already built up troops there, but they would obviously need a little bit of time to build up troops in their Baltic scenario, which is a unique reason that the Arctic escalation happens faster right now, which means the only risk of offense is for you to vote pro to stop that scenario first. I'll address their wing here. They say it's a sequencing thing, but A, there's no warrant about this time frame about how Russia would attack immediately, but B, we would say that the moment you affirm it's enough of a perception to deter Russia, which was conceded because right now the US nuclear umbrella might be waiting, but it's still enough that if Russia were to do an action right now, it would be a perceptual deterrent on their time frame. We would say that gray zones are happening now, which turns their time frame because there's no Russian buildup in the Baltic happening now, but you know that gray zones escalate quicker. Now, we're going to go for our case. Going for the Arctic scenario, the US umbrella is waiting right now because they're deprioritizing the Arctic, which is why Coleman finds that there are gray zones happening right now. The app can solve because it can frontline deploy French ICBM subs into the Arctic, which stops Russian gray zones because they'll see that they can't actually just get away with doing whatever they want in the Arctic. Otherwise, gray zones escalate because there's no red line to what the Article 5 stipulation is for NATO, and inevitably different attacks might lead to miscalculation. That causes extinction because it draws in great powers and the atmosphere would be too cold to grow food. I'll do the line behind here. So they say, firstly on the turns, or like the overview turns, they say that Russia views Ukraine as existential. There's no implication as to why this applies to our Arctic scenario specifically. They say there are jurisdictional challenges, but they've conceded Arian's frontline that because France is a part of NATO, we are allowed to fiat that this happens. It's also very simple. It's not contextual to our link, which is simply that France just moves their submarines into frontline states in the Arctic, which doesn't require any jurisdiction on the line by line of the Arctic. They say that Russia will attack anyway, but we would say that's true in the slow, but obviously not with a deterrent. They say that there's French deterrence already, but they've conceded Arian's frontline again that nuclear deterrent is better because conventional can't deter gray zone activities because gray zones are so covert, but nuclear deterrent is an ultimate deterrent because they know they can't start any conflict at all. Now, on their scenario on escalation, I'll line by line the revisionist stuff. They say that they say that conceded Poland is non-unique, but we would argue that insofar as Russia's revisionist, it doesn't matter what Poland scenario they're winning because there's still revisionism which leads to future conflicts. Group the next two responses. They say that there's no forces right now and that nukes are defensive, but even so, this is not contextual to the gray zone scenario that we're going for, which is not that Russia invades, which is what everything in their summary is contingent on. Our argument is rather that miscalculation causes war.
Okay, wait. Ready for cross?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we get first question?
Yeah.
Okay. So on your time frame analysis, so let's look at the at the post app scenario, right? So insofar as like why is like explain why like your scenario happened before. Explain like the time frame.
Yeah, I got you. I think Teddy does a really good job of this. He describes two reasons. One is that right now in the Arctic, Russia's already built up, whereas it takes time to build up in the Baltics.
Wait, can we get a follow up there? Actually, I'll let you finish.
All right, cool. Thank you. Second is that because it's happening right now, it is far more important. Like it's like Russian gray zones escalating right now. It's trier FA app. We have to do it right now. Whereas, and also,
so
the third one, there was no warrant given as to why it's perceptual, why they immediately start attacking in summary whatsoever.
It's in the extension telling you that it's just existential. They immediately attack.
No warrant.
It's the spec 25 evidence telling you specifically that they immediately attack because it's existential to them.
Throughout this round, there's been zero warrants as to why it is existential to Russia.
We
The
tell you
frontline line has been used in rebuttal, summary, and throughout the chapter, but there is not a single reason as to why it is existential.
In summary, we literally tell you it's an existential threat since it's so close to the Baltics. It's in our extension.
So close to the Baltics.
Since
Why does that make
it's
it
in the Baltic,
existential?
because it's
That
so
is not
close.
a word
Sorry.
for existential.
It's in the Baltic, which is so close to Russian territory. It's the extension.
That was just not in their summary.
It's the extension.
Nor was
It's
in their
the
rebuttal.
extension.
And even then, there's no explanation as to why that makes it existential. Even if
Because it's
Russia-
so close to Russia. It's encroaching on the territory.
That
It's
was
in
all
the
it-
Okay,
extension.
fine. If I walk close to Russia, am I existential?
No, but it's
to Russia?
nuclear weapons. It's nuclear weapons close to Russia. It's encroaching on the
Like,
territory.
I really, if that was in your summary, like, fine, maybe you could go with it. But like,
Okay,
it just was.
can we get a
No,
yeah,
my
you can
my
get a-
question. Come on now. Let's talk about jurisdiction. What
Yeah.
jurisdiction does NATO have in the Arctic, and how is it contextualized to our link?
Yeah, what the point of the jurisdictional challenges is basically post-AF, the EU and NATO are gonna have different jurisdictions on which one they actually cover. So there's no actual, they have to like debate on end for days on which conflict that they're gonna actually cover. So we would say
what
like.
does that mean though? You're extending
Yeah.
through ink, like
No,
this
I-
argument genuinely makes no sense. Like,
No,
can you just
it does,
explain
it does.
simply?
Yeah, I can explain it right now. What we're telling you is that since the EU and NATO both have these like nuclear deterrents, since they both have these nuclear deterrents, neither one is actually gonna know which conflict to cover when the conflict arises. So like insofar as like there's no actual reason of which one they cover, it's still they debate they debate for like days
Okay.
on which one.
One last
there's no
simple
actual
question:
deterrent.
are you willing to stake the round on the fact that this contextualization was in first summary?
We probably not gonna go for it. And it wasn't summary, but it's fine.
Okay. It'll go escalation, weighing, and like probably jurisdiction. Awesome. Are you good? Is everyone good?
Yes.
Awesome. Extend escalation. What we're telling you is that Russia is taking a step back right now, but they've conceded that whenever you affirm and you move nukes closer about, it's an existential risk to Russia because it's encroachment on their territory. That was in the extension. In summary, therefore, Russia lashes out. As per Whitman evidence, a preemptive strike is enough to cause the ozone layer to get destroyed and cause extinction because we can't farm. They have one response to this. They tell you that Russia is revisionist, but they don't respond to what Ben tells you in summary. That yes, while Russia may be conventionally revisionist, they don't use nukes unless nukes are brought to the table by the EU in the first place, which is why the front line has been 100% conceded, and which is why existential matters in the first place. As far as nukes are moved close to Russia, they see it as encroachment. It's existential. They're going to retaliate with nukes. All of this analysis was conceded, but let's explain why it matters. Go through the time frame debate. We tell you to prefer time frame first because it short circuits their argument. Here's why we're rating the time frame. First, our time frame is the only one that's carded, which means it's a higher probability on net than their time frame. Secondly, their gray zones, even if it's happening right now, there's no delineated time frame. Our delineated time frame happens instantly whenever you affirm. That much was conceded, and it's from the spec evidence. Also on their try-or-die wing, we will argue the time frame up layers try-or-die. Insofar as you can only die once, not twice, you're obviously preferring time frame first on this. Also, they have conceded that it short circuits their arguments. They say that, oh, it takes time to build up troops, but no, that's literally not our argument. Our argument is a preemptive strike if enough to cause extinction, which is why their scenario doesn't make sense. Also, they have conceded that it takes time to draw in actors from Ben Summer, which means even if their link is perceptual, their internal link is fundamentally not. Go to their case though. Extend jurisdiction. What we tell you is post-AF, EU and NATO are going to have jurisdictional trials over the conflict, which conflicts each side actually mediates. Their responses are all new in their summary, so you're not buying them. They will face challenges because they debate on end without actually figuring out how to terms, which would definitely apply to the subs argument since it's France as well. At the end of the day, all their analysis knew you're buying our case. You're buying the wing. Look for the wing first.
Case, way, their case? No, case, yeah, case, the jurisdiction thing. Case, quiet. The case, jurisdictional thing, Wednesday. And then their case. Anyone not ready? Perfect. We are going for our arguments on the Arctic. The U.S. umbrella is waning right now because of deprioritization, which is why the conceded Coleman have been spines. There's gray zones right now. The AF solid because it moves France, ICBM subs into frontline states in the Arctic, which deters gray zones because Russia perceives they can no longer go with small skirmishes. Otherwise, gray zones escalate because there's no clarity on Article 5 boundaries, and small skirmishes drawn in great powers through miscalculation, which causes nuclear war and makes the atmosphere too cold and dark to grow food. Now, on the way to time frame, they've conceded that because the Arctic is a geopolitical hotspot and Russia already has both conventional and nuclear forces there, a draw-in would happen faster than it would their scenario, which they do not specify. All these things, a preemptive strike is enough to cause extinction. Why? You still have to have a draw-in from other powers. Our draw-in scenario happens faster, which is the warranting. You can break the time frame clash on since it's the more geopolitical hotspot there, meaning it's more likely to draw in, and other countries, yeah. Now, rejectors, they've conceded that deterrence can be perceptual, which means it doesn't matter if their time frame is carded. The perceptual idea is in Washington side, both sides are going for it, and ours is a perceptual deterrence, whereas theirs, they would probably take Russia have to build up nukes there. That's the only time frame they go for, so to follow that back into drawing, which happens faster, both scenarios require drawing, which is why it's conceded away. Now, they also do not extend a Baltic-specific scenario. All they stand up and say, oh, we said Baltics was existential, which is why they strike. That just was not in their summary speech. I know you do not have it on their flow. There's not a single warrant as to why Russia just preemptively strike all of a sudden. Their terrible extension has lost in this round. I'm sorry. Go to the jurisdiction note. They just try to say that the NATO and France are going to argue, but they have conceded that the NATO has no jurisdiction in the Arctic. And second, the fact is that, France is part of NATO, which means they're not going to have it, which is the front line that goes conceded, meaning we're able to fiat it. Second, that they're just moving to the Arctic. There's no contextualization as to why the jurisdiction clash happens in the Arctic or how NATO is involved. This is just mitigatory at best, but even then, they've conceded the fact that the link is perceptual, meaning it doesn't matter even if you believe their overview, which still solves for it. We're in the time for debate. It's try or die. Go ahead.